Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Well, it is official. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is running for the Republican nomination for president. NBC News confirms he will file the paperwork and make a formal announcement next week. And of course, this is not a surprise. It has been widely anticipated because for months, DeSantis has been hitting the donor circuit and the early campaign trail, making appearances in Iowa and New Hampshire. And in fact, he has turned his entire governing agenda in Florida into a kind of set piece for his presidential campaign. He has been waging a culture war on his own constituents for the purpose of elevating himself. It's a very clear and coherent strategy. While Ron DeSantis tours around the country promoting himself in his new memoir titled The Courage to Be Free, at home he runs a government based on the opposite of freedom. His agenda is about state authority and its punitive use and decrees from on high. In Florida, he is running a kind of little MAGA kingdom in which Ron DeSantis and the Republican Party in the state legislature with their big majorities tell you how to live your life and you don't get to choose. Now, we're hearing the word authoritarian a lot more these days. In the wake of the first ever attempt to overturn American democracy, particularly, we use it on the show, Donald Trump encouraged those authoritarian impulses, and Ron DeSantis has stoked them. He's put them into practice. But I think the discussion about the threat of authoritarianism can sometimes feel almost a little remote or academic. That word has a certain kind of historical timbre to it. We associate the term with like stern historical figures like Stalin or Mussolini. And that can make it hard to look at Mr. Pudding Fingers yucking it up on the campaign trail in Iowa and see an authoritarian. But Ron DeSantis really is running on an authoritarian agenda. The policies he has enacted in Florida are the opposite of freedom. To me, the opposite of core American values, because in Ron DeSantis' Florida, the state will decide what books your child can or cannot read in their school library by threatening teachers and librarians with time in prison if they do not comply with vague laws about instruction on race, gender, and sexuality. The state will decide what women can do with their own bodies by banning abortion at 6 weeks. Of course, that is, for all intents and purposes, a complete abortion ban, which means that Ron DeSantis and the Republican Party of Florida control the bodies of every Floridian who can get pregnant. It's their body, not yours. The state will also decide how you can dress in public, which costumes you can wear, by enacting what is essentially a full ban on drag performances that will also likely restrict pride events. The state will decide what kind of speech corporations can engage in, including which criticisms they can make of the government, by going after Disney punitively for speaking out against anti-LGBTQ laws. That fight has become quite notorious, blew up to the point that Disney announced today it's abandoning a $1 billion planned development in Florida. We'll see what sort of reprisals the state wages against that company. But Ron DeSantis' dystopian authoritarian vision is most apparent in the legislation he just signed yesterday. It bans all gender-affirming care for all minors in Florida, everyone 18 and younger. That law also empowers state courts to change custody agreements if a child is receiving or is at risk of receiving gender-affirming care, meaning taking a kid away from a parent. Telling parents how they can or cannot raise their own children is among the most authoritarian things a government can do. And now that is exactly what Ron DeSantis and the Republican Party in Florida, and generally the conservative movement that endorses this, are doing purely for ideological and punitive purposes. Now, the sick irony here, the one that I just can't get over and really kind of sticks with me, is that the right-wing movement that gave us this new law signed yesterday is the very same group of people that screamed about parental rights for years amidst the pandemic. I get to say whether my kid wears a mask. I get to say whether my kid gets vaccinated. I get to say whether my kid goes to school. And Ron DeSantis was the public face of that movement.
He wants to have the government force kindergartners to wear masks in school. He doesn't believe the parents should have a say in that. He thinks that should be a decision for the government. Well, I can tell you in Florida, the parents are going to be the ones in charge of that decision. Joe Biden suggests that if you don't do lockdown policies, then you should, quote, get out of the way. But let me tell you this. if you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way. I'm not going to let you get away with it.
What a tough guy. You see all that swagger? He's going to stand in your way if you're coming after parental rights, if you try to tell a parent what they can do with their kids. That very same wing of the Republican Party, embodied by Ron DeSantis and the government of the state of Florida, has now demanded and produced a situation in which the government, that guy you saw there with the tough guy swagger about freedom, is going to decide if your child, who lives in your home, that you gave birth to or raised, that you love, your kid, what kind of care they can get. He decides. Care that, to be clear, the American Academy of Pediatrics supports and recommends. Think about what this means. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, there are parents and families in Florida who have decided, as a family, as parents, along with their doctors, that this health care, gender-affirming care, is the best care for their kids. You may not like it, but you know what? It's none of your, excuse me, goddamn business. To me, that is what the courage to be free means. Freedom means that in my household, our family decides what kind of health care our child does or does not get. Not Ron DeSantis, not the Republican Party. But that is no longer the case in Florida.
I think this is something that we just made the decision as a state and me as governor to just say, we're protecting kids. And we're going to protect kids when it's popular. We'll protect kids even when you take some incoming as a result of maybe offending some ideologies or some agendas out there. But that's fine. We're happy to do that because this is important.
They're happy to tell you whether you can get an abortion, whether you can give birth or not. Government of Florida, via Ron DeSantis, they made that decision for you. They made the decision about your child's health care. They decided the kind of care your child can receive. Ron DeSantis probably knows pretty well, right? What's best for your 13-year-old, the one that lives in your house. Their courts could decide to take that child away from you if you violate their rules, their ideology. As a parent, I cannot think of anything more horrifying or un-American than that. And yet it is going to be the centerpiece of Ron DeSantis' presidential campaign.